My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Okay, let's talk about this leadership thing. I genuinely think as a country, we have been experiencing a leadership crisis for a while. For a long while. And there's probably very many reasons as to how we got ourselves in this mess. Probably very many solutions on how we can get ourselves out. But I've always been fascinated by what our definition of a good leader is. There are 3 or 4 things that come to mind when I think about this. The first one happens very often when I go for interviews and I talk about how dissatisfied I am in the way this government is leading the country. And it's not only just this government, man. Even previous ones, I've just been like, oh, what exactly is going on? And whenever I vocalize my dissatisfaction, often I get asked if I have political ambitions, like if I want to run for public office. And in the past, I used to be like, why is that the next question? It used to I'd get a bit perturbed about it. Like, why is this the next question? It doesn't make sense. And I've actually understood why it never makes sense for me to be asked that question. In holding the government accountable, all I'm doing is being an active citizen. These people hold public office, right? Which means they're accountable to the public. Me, I am part of the public. And so it is well within my right to say, hey, how are you running this thing? Or maybe you need to run it this way. Or why are you doing this? They are accountable to us as the public. Me doing my duty as an active citizen doesn't automatically make me a good leader. Off the top of my head, from my individual perspective, there are different things I want from a good leader. I want them to have certain values. I want them to have an actual strategy and plan, efficient plan for where they intend to take those they're leading them. So I can be an active citizen and lack those values. I can be an active citizen and actually not be an honest person. I can be an active citizen and not have a plan of how to lead, forget even the country, or how to lead my household or even my village, right? It doesn't negate the fact that it is well within my right to be an active citizen, but it also doesn't automatically make me a good leader. I think because not many of us step into that power of holding these people in public office accountable, we think it's for a select few. This is something that we all can do. They work for us. The other thing I started thinking about a couple of days or weeks ago, I watched a local celebrity being interviewed on local TV. This particular celebrity has often flaunted their riches and their wealth on social media. One of the questions they were asked is like, what's your source of income? They dodged that question and they never answered it. Like, to be very frank, I was like waiting for the answer. It never came. But the next question they were asked is if they intend to run for political office. Now, so there are 2 things here I want to unpack. The first one is, honestly, and I say this acknowledging that I am part of the media. I was in legacy media, I'm now in new media. And we genuinely have to do a better job in interrogating how good a leader, somebody who has political ambitions, is. Because we are the watchdog. Media plays a watchdog role. We are the medium through which the public gets to know these people much better, right? And so we have to ask the questions that the public would love to get known. If we kind of leave it in the air as, oh, this person is rich and now they want to run for public office, what we inevitably end up communicating is that if someone is wealthy, they automatically are a good leader, which is false. It's such a false notion, right? And I've watched quite a few of these interviews, even in the last elections, where aspirants were being asked questions. And most of the time, it was all just fluff. People were not being asked, what exactly is your plan for this constituency? What is your plan for the arts, the creative fields? What is your plan for healthcare? What's your plan for education? What exactly are the top 5 issues of this community that you intend to serve? Are you aware of that even? I think we need to do a better job whenever we sit with people who express political ambitions. We should go a step further instead of leaving it as this person is rich, so they're going to run for office. Why? What values do you have? What is your plan for this space that you're going to be leading? Because we owe it to the public to be able to ask those questions. That's one. But the other thing is, I don't know why we assume as a people that if one has money, they're automatically a good leader. What that's evidence of is that we have a very inefficient political structure that requires one to have tons of money to be able to run for public office. And I'm calling it inefficient because I'm talking from the outside, but maybe it was created to run like that and to lock out good leaders who just can't afford, to force you, if you're running for office, to align yourself with particular parties or particular individuals. So having money just means you can afford to operate in this inefficient structure, right? It doesn't mean you automatically hold the values that make a good leader. It really doesn't. And I think on an individual level, we have to introspect and ask, what is our relationship with money? What is our relationship with power? Those in power, those in perceived power. Why do we feel like they're beyond being held accountable? If somebody has tons of money and they're famous, they can do absolutely anything and everything. Why do we think that's the case? What is driving us to make that or draw that conclusion? Okay, so now if those are the things on our list of things we want from leaders, okay, that's the state we're in. Nikubaya, but yeah, this is where we're at, right? Then we can't be shocked when we forget just some of the even criminal records some people in public office have. I find it so strange that we can have people running for public office and even getting in who are facing rape charges, murder charges. What? Think about it this way. If you owned a business or an organization and you were interviewing people to be in top management, somebody to run this company for you, what would you be looking at? If somebody had criminal charges that are heavy, like those ones are... Is that the person you'd be like, yep, this one, good leader? That is that good leadership quality I'm looking for. Is that really what you're going to be looking for? Are you going to be concerned about how famous they are or how much money they have? Really think about the values of leadership you would be looking for. Okay, then why don't you want that for your country, for your constituency? You know what I mean? Why do we think we don't deserve that? I really have spent time trying to think, why do we, why between my interview, no, why is this our definition of leadership? Where did we learn this? Where did we learn this fear that we can't question those in positions of leadership, those in public office? Could it be from colonial times? Could it be because, you couldn't question those who had enslaved us? Could it be that time? Did we learn that at that time, if you have proximity to power, you are better off than those who don't? So it's best not to speak too loudly about the wrongs that those in power are doing because you don't want to rock the boat because of how it could affect you. Could it be then? I don't actually have an actual answer as to when we learned this and how we arrived here. All I know is that we're here. We're in this leadership crisis, and the way we define a good leader is cause for alarm. All I know is we need to unlearn and redefine what we believe a good leader is. That has to change. We can't keep glorifying people because they happen to have money and they happen to have fame, but they lack the values and the planning and the forward thinkingness that we want leaders to have. For example, recently, can you tell I'm frustrated? Recently, I watched a video by somebody holding a public office, and they were in a different country, and they were talking about how the police in that country patrol easily on bicycles, and they have body cameras, right? First and foremost, body cameras is not like a new innovation. It's been there for yonks. So that is not even something. In their video, they were talking about like, oh, is this something that we should bring back home, etc.? That's not innovation, right? Secondly, it shows just a lack of understanding of what the issues around the police are. When people talk about police reforms, top of the list is not body cameras, right? We're talking about the recruitment process and how it has so many issues, one being corruption, but also it's so colonial in its structure that, of course, you're breeding monsters, right? Who your people end up being very scared of or very angry towards. We're talking about even just the lack of good infrastructure around how you treat these police officers. What pay do they get? What insurance benefits do they get? Housing. What housing do they get, right? And so, like, for me seeing that, I was like, how do we have leaders who are so detached? And I kept going back to, what was this particular leader promising us when they were campaigning? And if you go back there, you see they're so vacuous, right? There's a lack of understanding of the people they serve. They just got in because they aligned themselves to a particular party and they managed to get that ticket, right? And so it's just like a mix of, that's why I started off by saying there are very many reasons we're here, but the one I wanted to talk about is, what is our definition of a good leader? Definitely, I do not want somebody who is detached from the issues of the people that they're serving, right? You have to have local context and knowledge of the issues plaguing the people that you're serving. That's definitely one. We need to unlearn the definition of leadership that we have. Number one, we need to unlearn it, and we need to redefine. We need to redefine, what exactly does leadership in Africa look like? What do we want it to look like? Allow ourselves to dream a little bit even as we're defining this thing, because I believe there is so much hope for this country and this continent. And then we actually need to hold ourselves accountable to that when we're looking for who our next leaders are going to be. We need to be aware of the structures that lock out the leaders that we are deserving of. And we need to think, okay, the people have the power. How do we change those structures? What do the baby steps even look like? It looks like a big job, of course, which it is, but it starts off with small steps, right? And then we need to start believing that we are worthy of good leaders. That notion of, this is how Kenya is, this is how it's always been, we just have to survive through it. No, it doesn't have to be the reality. Like, I'll never give up on my country. And ultimately, we are deserving of good leadership. We're not deserving of leaders who lie to us. We're not deserving of criminals leading us. We're not deserving of people leading us who don't have a plan. What? Where are you taking us, right? And we are actually within our right, and it's within our power to hold the leaders that we have placed in public office accountable. That's your power. You need to reclaim that. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.